Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
If we're going to talk about trailers or what we saw or what. And Chad's here too, so we have an intro to make.
I think I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
We're already rolling.
You just introed Chad.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was it. We just did it.
That was it.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome, Chad.
Thank you. I feel that welcome.
Warm feeling. It is. It should. Well, we're very warm people.
Can I say that I've been watching your show Audit with my ears for all of them. I love them all. You guys are so great.
Wow, it seems so weird to have a fan.
We should invite fans more often.
Yeah, we really should. This is fantastic.
I'm a little obsessed too.
Chad, Andy and I work in and around digital pictures. Chad is actually an actor upon them.
Upon the picture.
On the picture.
Yeah. And Chad has been an actor. This is, I think, how we originally, well, you two have been connected since you were separated at birth. But I think really the three of us, we got connected. I think this was the first real connection was during the making of Andy, your film, The Wait, your hit. I think we can call it a hit feature.
It was a hit.
I don't know if we'd call it we can call it a hit, but I don't think we can call it a feature.
But we can say
if you watch it.
If you
If you watch.
4 or 5 times? 6 times?
We can't say that.
Especially if we found the long missing original cut that went on for I don't even know how long.
Well, that's the truth. And at the time, now I was doing a film about your film.
Yes,
and so I made a making of film of your film, and so the three of us spent a lot of time together at the Denver International Airport.
Those were the days back when we could film a student film with no permission. Well, I guess we had permission, but we had no insurance coverage. We had
well, I guess we had permission, but not good permission, and it was permission given to us by a guy that no one respected. That was one of the funniest moments. I can't remember. I think there was a point where I have you on film actually saying about this gentleman. I think he goes home at night and his wife and kids walk all over him.
Yes.
And I mean, I have never forgotten that. You are the kindest, most gentle guy on the planet. And you went off on this guy on tape.
Yeah.
I bet he just goes home and his wife and kids just walk all over him and they step on his neck and they just, I mean, it was not a good scene.
That's who he is. That's how Andy really is.
Well, I will
step on your neck if you don't,
And then, and so, we go, that was probably 17 years ago.
Oh goodness. I don't even want to think about how long ago that was.
So here we are and we're here. And so Chad, we are here with you this evening.
Yes.
Because you're a goon for this movie that we're talking about tonight. You have no other connection to this film, do you? Do you have a secret connection? Were you actually in this movie?
I hear that Chad does have another connection to this
What
film.
is the connection to this film?
Chad has a Facebook account.
Oh,
I do.
Well, that's the truth.
Yes.
It's a good one. You should go find him. You should also find him at chadstoops.com.
Back when they weren't popular.
You can find Chad at chadstoops.com and see a giant picture of his head.
That you took the picture.
I actually did. I took that photo.
And
so there you go. He's actually much friendlier than that picture would.
It looks like I was just kicked in the crotch moment.
Why, thanks, Chad. That's the most glowing testimonial I've ever received.
No, but it's real. It's right there. It's in the moment.
We are tonight. We are talking about The Social Network, otherwise much maligned as the Facebook movie, which is an unfortunate diminutive of this film. And Andy, give us the breakdown of your usual thing. Do your usual thing.
Do I have a usual thing?
You do. Yeah, we've done.
I know about it.
Wait a minute. Is this our 10th? How many episodes is this? Is this our 10th episode? Is this our birthday episode?
I don't know.
Should we be? Oh,
did I make it to the birthday one?
Did we just hit double digits? I thought that was last week. I honestly don't know.
Oh, we missed it, and
Last week was a big week. we had to just jump right in.
We did. We did Dragon Tattoo last week, so it was. We had Eternal Sunshine, and we had Harry and Sally, Dragon Tattoo,
Am I right so far?
Yes,
And
that's
then
right.
and then this one. So 4,
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last week was 10. So
Yeah.
this is 11.
What, you got did all those last week? That's amazing.
No, we like to broadcast from the past.
Yeah, that's what you do.
So let's talk about this movie. This is David
So,
Fincher. Here's why I love this movie. I'm going to tell you right now. I love this movie because there is just an unbelievable sort of alignment of planetary talent with David Fincher, Aaron Sorkin, and Trent Reznor. To me, the three of them coming together to make this movie it made something really special.
Yeah, and I would throw Jesse Eisenberg into that pile up as well. I don't think that this movie would have been anywhere near as spectacular as it was without him leading it. And I think he really was just a fantastic actor to play Mark Zuckerberg. So the story is basically about the creation of Facebook. I mean, we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg and his buddies, Eduardo Saverin in particular, at Harvard back in 2003. After a breakup, he basically comes up with this website called Face Mash. It gets him into trouble, but it also, he catches the attention of some Harvard jock bigwigs, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, the Winklevoss twins, or the Winklevi, as Mark Zuckerberg affectionately calls them. They have an idea of doing something similar to what Facebook ends up being. He basically goes out and creates it. They sue him. We go into all sorts of stuff. We're basically seeing the story through two different lawsuits that are happening with Mark Zuckerberg. One is the Winklevoss twins and their partner, Divya Narendra, as they sue him for stealing their idea. The other is from his friend, Eduardo Saverin, who ends up suing him because over the course of Mark creating Facebook and partnering up with Sean Parker, played wonderfully by Justin Timberlake, they kind of cut Eduardo out of the mix, and so he ends up suing him as well. And that's kind of the story.
That sort of gets to one of the reasons that this movie makes me really mad, and so I kind of want to get it out on the table. The movie was based on the book The Accidental Billionaires by Ben Mesrick, and Ben Mesrick is I think he's a talented writer, but I've spent a lot of time kind of in and around tech media, and I think we have to say that this is not a film, a documentary by any stretch. Much of this is the book. In fact, was based largely on Eduardo Saverin's side of the the story. It is not. It doesn't really accurately document the tone and tenor of the founding of Facebook. It documents a lot of the legal stuff, but I think much of the soul and sentiment of this company, whatever you think of Facebook, is not really accurately portrayed in this. It's a dramatization, and it's not the true. What I think we would say is the true story of Facebook.
That's true. It's not really the true story of Facebook. And I mean, people involved in the film have said that. People, the real world people, who were portrayed in the film, they came out and they've said that. But an interesting thing about the film that I just I want to throw out there, there's a fantastic scene at the end of the film that I can't remember the actress's name. What's her name? Who is in The Office?
Oh yeah, Parks and Recreation.
Rashida Jones.
Rashida Jones. Yeah.
She's the legal assistant.
Yeah.
And she's got that great scene at the end where she's talking to Mark, kind of as everything's wrapping up, and she says, she's like, let me just read this out of the script. She's like, I could get a jury to believe you planted the story about Eduardo. You know how? Just by asking the question. Watch. Why weren't you at the sorority party that night? And Mark says, you think I'm the one who called the police? And she says, it doesn't matter. I asked the question, and now everybody's thinking about it. You lost the jury in the first 10 minutes. It's in a sense, and that scene it's interesting how it defines Mark in that film, but it's also interesting how a fictionalized movie ends up defining the reality for an audience. You know?
Right.
Because now, regardless of what the truth is, because people are going out and seeing the movie, this is, for all intents and purposes, what a lot of people are seeing as the reality of how Facebook was founded.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And it's even not, when you look at that very opening scene of Zuckerberg and Erica Albright. Erica Albright is a character that does not exist. It's a person that does not exist. And the entire foundation of the movie, I think what you could say that the foundation of this movie is based so much on this sense of vengeance, right? A sense of Mark getting back at this woman for making him feel the way he felt, and exercising his power over this woman by doing something that he believed she was absolutely incapable of doing. She does not exist, nor is her character in the book, The Accidental Billionaires. In that respect, the movie deviates in the first 10 minutes, and the foundation of the story of the film is a fictitious one. And yet, it is, as you say, I mean, it largely has crafted this manufactured history of the creation of this company.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far into it, but I think we need to we just make sure that we approach this not as a depiction of the film, because if I don't say that out loud, I'm going to get myself really wired, because there's stuff that happens just not true.
Right. Well, I just want to say that from an actor's standpoint, and watching and listening to it, and also because I've watched this over and over and over again, because I love it so much. But it's amazing how before I went to go see the movie, how many people said, the movie's really not about Facebook. It is about Facebook, but it's like I think Armie Hammer said it. He plays the Winklevoss twins, but basically he said, it's like the fifth thing down the line. This movie's about these friendships and what happens to these friendships when this idea comes into play. And it's more about how that affects not just even the idea that this guy, that Jesse Eisenberg plays it, that I think is, you can argue whether he really had hardly any friends or not, but watching interviews with him, the guy looks like he's about to get hit by a car every time you see him in the video. His eyes are all bulging out. Mark Zuckerberg is he just seems like the guy that would not be able to hold a conversation with anybody for very long about anything that didn't have to do with computers. But point being is that, here's a guy that, had a couple friends, and then, the point is, through this idea, what was more important to him? And that's, I think, what makes people kind of frustrated with Mark not even knowing him. Is this a guy that's is he like this? Is he really like this selfish and self-centered? But he's the whole idea is that Jesse Eisenberg played this guy who ruins all of his friendships, takes away, the what he could have had, with Eduardo or whatever, to build this thing. And that's where I'm wondering, is that all true? Is that the part that's all true?
Well, I wonder, and I wonder, I think you sort of have to look at not sort of, you really have to look at Aaron Sorkin, and what he, what he apparently was working to extract from the book, and the message that he was looking to get on screen first and foremost. Now, here's a guy who, is on the record during the press junket for this film, is saying he doesn't have a Facebook account. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like computers. And he's writing a movie that is, that's very foundation is built on technology. Now, you could argue that he's exactly the right guy to write this film, because, as you say, Chad, it ends up being a film much more about relationships and about what happens when ambition, ambition exists at the service of friendship, or friendship exists at the service of ambition.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on where you come down on that discussion and what Sorkin was looking at really getting into or getting out of the tale of Zuckerberg's journey, you know, that really determines how you look at the friendships and how they're played in this film.
Yeah. And I think basically when you see the film, I went there actually thinking, because you want it to be real. I think you want Erica Albright to be real. And that's, I think, where your anger comes in. You want that relationship to be there because it makes you feel like, oh, this is the reason why he did this, you know, and the history comes into play. So, you know, and interviews with even, you know, I've watched interviews with a lot of these guys, and even Eduardo says, you know, he wasn't even dating anyone at the time. And you know, so what triggered all this? What triggered Face Smash?
Well,
you know,
I mean, you know, Zuckerberg has been dating Priscilla Chan for, you know, over 10 years, since before Facebook, you know. I mean, she's
okay.
So, you know, but that gets to the point, right, of just how far afield the character of Zuckerberg is from reality. I don't want to kind of belabor that. I know we've been talking too long about it, but the truth of the matter is, early Mark Zuckerberg, the real guy, probably, you know, it sounds very much like the guy Jesse Eisenberg portrayed, a guy who has real difficulty, you know, interacting with human beings. And there are a lot of people like that in that business. But they also, you know, learn to adjust, and you don't become a young CEO, the second youngest billionaire on the planet, next to his employee, Dustin Moskovitz, I believe, the youngest billionaire on the planet. If you really are somebody who's manifested by evil, and that's one of the things I really think is important to look at the layers of complexity that the script gets to. Right? I mean, the fact that we have this conversation about you know, motivation through ambition in this movie is it's enormously complex.
Yeah.
It's very complex, and it's you know, it's an interesting scenario, and I think for Aaron Sorkin, I can see why he would be wanting to and very interested in telling this story, because it's a story about basically a computer programmer who reinvents the social media and how people can connect with each other while never being able to, you know, get those social connections himself. You know, I mean, in the end, it ends up being a personal tragedy for this guy. He just, you know, he's able to reinvent social connections in the world, yet at the very end, he's still stuck on Erica Albright. It's a fascinating character.
Well, it's a fascinating character. So where do you, I mean, do you guys remember the first time you saw this movie, how you felt about Zuckerberg and the organization?
Oh my God!
Before, wait, you gotta, but before the movie versus 2 hours later after the movie,
where it was like physically in the theater.
No. How what was your impression of Facebook and Zuckerberg before the movie versus after the movie? Do you find just the experience of being involved with these people on screen actually change your opinion?
Yeah.
Well, personally, I knew nothing about anyone involved in the creation of Facebook before that. I was kind of an anti-Facebook guy for a while, and my wife finally got me to join it. And then once I did, I enjoyed it, but I was never really at a point where I was actively pursuing it and learning who was involved and all that. And I'm sure I've heard Zuckerberg's name on the news and all that stuff, but I just kind of always dismissed it. So honestly, I saw the movie, and it was kind of like the first time I really ever paid attention to those people. So I mean, for all intents and purposes, I walked out of the theater probably saying, feeling that was a true story.
Well, I think what's amazing is that he encapsulates every kid's want to make something happen out of nothing, that, you know, the dream that he has to have it realized. I don't think that definitely he knew where it was going to go, but when I went in, I don't know why I so badly wanted to see the film. I think I'm one of those guys that I I'm one of those people that I love the idea, especially for this film. It's history, and we're living in that history right now. It wasn't like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. You know, it wasn't like that. It's happening right now. So it wasn't too long. It's not even 10 years ago. You know, it's not even. It's, you know, he's only been. I mean, Facebook has only been really around for a very short period of time now, but you know, the impact it's had is huge. So when I sat down in the theater, I mean, even hearing the Trent Reznor, you know, hit all of his music that carried that film. I mean, really, just like moved you through it emotionally. I was actually hearing an interview with that, just as a side note, with David Fincher talking about how they talked about the piano music and how in the beginning you can hear that lonely piano music in the beginning. And then at the very end of the film, I mean, as the film goes on, they move. It's a stand-up piano that they use. And as the film goes on, they actually move the piano farther and farther away in the room. And at the very end of the movie, it's like it's you can hear it in the distance, and it's actually represents who he was, sort of echoing. This haunting echo. And I thought, geez, and you know, it's weird because I've just always thought that music through the whole thing was very haunting. It was just, it drives it. It's just haunting. It's empty, but at the same time, it's very active, and it makes you like curious about what's happening. But for me, when I watched that film, I was just, the inventive spirit within me was just thinking about like what this socially awkward man that no one would have thought would have created this thing. That I kept going in my head like, why this is, I mean, on a deeper level, whether you know anything about Mark Zuckerberg or not, I think the real point and what everybody's always said about him is that, you know, in this film and then outside the film, is he's awkward, socially not that guy that everybody talks to, that he has a bunch of friends. And so in your mind, you have to, in my mind, I'm thinking like, was this his escape? Was this his way to make friends in a digital place that made complete sense to him? You know, this was his outlet. This was his way. And so when I watched it, I was like, this film goes much deeper than just the, you know, what they're actually saying with these other characters. It was actually his, you know, it always seemed like for me when I was watching it, like this guy's fight to speak and have the friends that he could never have in life, seems like, or like that he would want, the way he'd want them.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that I like so much about the way they're like these data points in the film, and the way the music and the script and in fact the role that this fictitious Erica Albright plays through the course of the film, right? So he is spurned by her in the opening scene in what is some of the just most brilliant dialogue, most nuanced traffic changes of dialogue that you will hear. I mean, the first few minutes is just perfect.
Yes, genius.
It really is genius. And so you look at that, and he is moved to go back. You have this long walking sequence of him walking across, you know, the fictitious Harvard campus, which I think, what was it? It's it wasn't Harvard. It was another. There's
like 4 different schools they filmed that. I don't know what that particular part was.
So he goes back to his dorm, and that experience motivates him to do Face Mash. And then he, as a character, and I mean, check me on this, but he seems to, he's ambitious. He loses himself in the engineering of Facebook, right? Of the Face Mash.
Face Mash, right?
And but it all builds up to this dramatic sort of crescendo of him taking the site live, and it's a press of a button, and there it is. And then after a little bit of, you know, drama, we're in a bar, and they're with the 2 girls, and he goes back over, he sees Erica, and again his emotional sort of arc has stabilized at this point. He sees her, tries to apologize, she scorns him again. And that's when he is, again, emotionally motivated to expand Facebook and make it even bigger, right? Mm-hmm. So now back to the music. The very first track on the you know, as you bring up on the soundtrack, Chaz, is actually called "Hand Covers Bruise," and I find that really so illustrative of the tempo of the film. Like every time he reaches out to take the mouse. It's him covering this injury that he keeps taking every time he thinks of and interacts with this woman. And so what she represents is his inability, I think, to deal with people. And he responds by going inside of himself and creating this monster, social network.
And that particular track of music actually comes back 3 times throughout the film. So it's interesting how it does that and echoes it throughout.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that was the whole piano going farther away kind of thing. I actually have the script in front of me right now.
Is it a bedtime read?
No, I just the whole dialogue thing. No, it's just, it was amazing. Did you know that opening scene was done 99 takes? They had 99
takes.
Yeah, that's Fincher for you.
99. And what I heard was that was like, and everybody said, wow, that was, and every time Mark, not Mark, but Jesse would say, like, he would say, like, no, you don't understand. This was like an actor's dream to be able to do 99 takes. And I can honestly tell you from an actor's point of view, and actually working with Andy, but the hardest part of being the actor is that the director saying, like, oh, no, let's move on. And you're like, let's just do one more take, because you're feeling it differently now. There's a different moment that you realize something new. And a lot of times directors, they just move on. But it was just amazing. Like, he did those 99 takes until he got what he wanted out of the actors. He got everything out of them. And so that's what we see. What we see on screen is something that, and even, I don't know if you noticed this, but they didn't flood in that music, or not music, but the sound of the people in the background. They were all speaking at regular volume. And so it was just sort of like they were trying to really create this atmosphere of this bar, which normally you don't do in a film. Usually you have people either very silently talking or not at all. But which
right.
Well, the entire we're doing this Fincher discussion backwards, the Benjamin Button Fincher discussion, and in doing that, we're sort of at a disadvantage. Because we're deconstructing his style in reverse,
right?
But I'm curious. Andy, you said something last week as we were talking about sort of the Fincher. What is the Fincher style? And it's interesting as you think about all the movies that had chronologically led to this film.
Mm-hmm.
Again, check me on this. Would you agree that he has become more nuanced and even more subtle in this film than really all the prior films he'd done?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, and I think to a certain extent, it also it depends on the story he's telling. I mean, this story, I don't think, it's not about a serial killer, or any sort of, wild chase sort of film or anything like that. It's a relatively tame film for him. I mean, it's this and Benjamin Button were really kind of, if you look at his entire body of work, they're kind of different films for him. And
by the same token, so is Dragon Tattoo. I mean,
none
of those three movies could be compared to. None of those three movies, though, could be compared in, as the same sort of type of project as Panic Room and Fight Club, for example.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, those are very much more stylized films. I think these films, are a little more in the Panic Room vein rather than the Fight Club vein, just as far as kind of the overall, somber tone of the whole thing. But it's his, Social Network was his 8th film, and it's definitely clear that as he's been making films, he has become more nuanced and has been able to find, those smaller moments and be satisfied with them. Whereas maybe earlier on, for example, like in the computer programming scenes, in the hands of a younger David Fincher, or perhaps a completely different director, those may have been completely, the net jumping into the computer and through the wires, and just all sorts of like watching how people get connected. And it could have turned into kind of a much more CG fest of, the glory of how information is transmitted. I think between this and Dragon Tattoo, he certainly found a way to, in a very simple way, kind of show you how these, in one case, computer programmers, in another case, computer hackers, it's almost just like an extension of them. It's not even like they're doing anything odd. It's just, they're typing on their keyboard and they know exactly what they're doing. It's not that interesting, I suppose, but it doesn't have to be flashy either for them to end up creating Facebook,
Well, I think that gets to a really central point in his filmmaking. I really like the way you said that, because this movie, I think a younger Fincher, my hypothesis is a younger Fincher would have lost the real merit of the script with the technology, or would have sort of conflated the merit of the script, the humanity of the script, with the technology of the script. And I think that this more sort of grown up Fincher really nailed what is most interesting about this movie, which is the people that actually, and how they relate with one another, not the computers that they're on and the networks that they're wired into.
Right.
Yeah. So how would you define the Social Network Fincher style? Like what do you, in terms of his filmmaking, the choices he makes, somebody says, well, that's definitely a Fincher movie. You can tell it's a Fincher movie. Why can you tell it's a Fincher movie?
Well, it's very dark. Not just the look of it, but just the tone of it. It's a darker tone. The Mark Zuckerberg character is a fairly insensitive person. So we're kind of, with him as our protagonist, we're tagging along with him, and it becomes a world of kind of insensitivity, I suppose. So it's darker. It's, about kind of the last decade's, wants and needs, and, the way that people are, kind of just, it's all about, creating these things and getting money and fame and all that sort of stuff. And so that kind of darkness, that darker tone, that darker edge, I think would be kind of the biggest calling card that would make this, I suppose you'd say, a Fincher film. And also just attention to detail. That's one thing that I've noticed in every film of his, is he just really knows how to catch details that you don't often get in other films. It's just these little things that happen that just really kind of help define a film, and hence kind of what Fincher is doing with them.
Huh. I got it running here in front of me, and I just marvel at how good he has gotten at making, paperwork fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
These really what they're doing here, the way the script is structured, and what had just popped up is the actual scene, the pitch scene, where they go to New York to pitch the ad executive, who is Aaron Sorkin.
Right.
And, insofar as the book itself was actually a tale of mostly Eduardo Saverin, this movie, the way this is structured, you really are hearing three perspectives, right? As they jump back and forth between these different lawsuits. There's the Winklevi,
yep,
and their perspective jumping through their timeline. There's the Saverin timeline, right? Jumping through his court case.
Right.
And the Sean Parker sort of integrated timeline.
Well, and I would just almost just call that one just like the present day, or the flashbacks, or really is,
actual story.
Okay.
Yeah, because Sean Parker doesn't. I mean, he's just part of all of that back, timeline that is coming through from those two depositions.
Right. As they catch up with themselves over time.
Did you guys I thought that he fit that so well, like Sean Parker. Like I felt like you couldn't have cast a better person for that person, only because, not just because he's a singer, like he fit it that way, the profile who he was as a person, but I just felt like his the way he did it wasn't pretentious. It just somehow fit that role, and it fits, even that scene when they're sitting and he's like, Eduardo's like, he's 25 minutes late. And then he comes in, he does that whole scene. He goes, you know what, you want to know what's cool? He goes, you?
Yeah, right.
And it's the look on his face, because he could have had a look, but the look that he has on his face is not this look of, he's very consistent with being enamored with Jesse Eisenberg, with Mark Zuckerberg. And so he's just like, he keeps taking these hits from Eduardo, but they just kind of like slide off his back because he's the guy, and he knows he's the guy, and he's the guy in real life. He's the guy, it's like, so it's like you don't not believe that he is anyway. So it's almost like it was the perfect fit for him to be that, because we didn't have to convince ourselves at all.
Well, and I would add to that, and I don't listen to Justin Timberlake music. He's not on. I don't carry his music around.
Oh, come on, you've got your sexy back.
Okay, that's the one that I.
Is that he's got his sexy back?
I've got a sexy back. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
But I think Timberlake is. I mean, he's a guy I think we will remember more as an actor when he is, in 10 years. I think when he did Alpha Dogs, he set himself apart as somebody who could, who can play a key role as an actor, and not as a guy parading around, who just gets acting roles in big movies because of his name. And I think in many respects, while I totally agree with you, that, in one respect, his fame served him in this role, it does a disservice to Justin Timberlake's actual acting talent, because I think he is a much more gifted actor than people, often give him credit for. And I think his performances are often dismissed because of his fame. And I don't necessarily think they should be. Because I think he did a terrific job in this film.
Oh yeah, he was really just fantastic. I mean, I think Chad had it pretty spot on. I mean, he brought that presence to the role, and I think that role needed that presence, and he worked really well. You're right. I do think it has affected him since then in some cases. But I mean, I think in the last year he's kind of proven that he is more of an actor. And I mean, he's been a busy actor this last year.
He's been very busy, and it's nice to see that he's the guy who carries these movies that otherwise might not be that great. I hope he gets into some movies where he can carry them, where the movies are also that great.
Yeah, right. Not Yogi Bear 2.
I hope not. Not. But while we're talking about the actors, I mean, was there anybody for you guys that stood out as not an absolutely career-defining, exemplary performance in this film?
The guy that suggested to do face smash in the back behind Jesse. He was blurry. I just didn't think he was doing his job.
You just thought he was blurry. I think that was the character of Dustin, the youngest billionaire.
No.
It was
Dustin is the Jurassic Park kid.
Yeah, this was another guy that came.
Oh,
in.
right. The drunk like in the very opening scene, the opening coding scene.
But I felt like the guy who played Dustin. What was his name?
Joseph Mazzello.
Yeah,
Joseph
the Jurassic Park kid.
He was,
oh man!
So, if you just watch him, his character is spot on. I mean, he does not stray from the kind of lighthearted guy that he is. It's just he's really like in the scene where they're all sitting there, and they bring the girls into the apartment, and they like right after the Jessica Albright interaction where he should have apologized. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there, and he's just sitting there, and his first words are,
"Who are they?
Who are they?
Who are the girls?
Yeah, who are the girls? That's right."
That's his first word. That like they go to this whole thing, and then who are these people? And it's just he says stuff like that the whole movie, and he's just so funny. Like the network's down. He's the guy that comes running up and goes, "The network's down." And he's got this huge, but it puts the stamp on the end of that scene that makes it so great. You're like, oh, that's really funny,
Well, and that's one of those things that you look at it that when you think about it. I mean, he was the first director of software development at Facebook. I mean, he is largely the guy who made Facebook what it is. He is, if you look at all of the heroes, he's the unsung one.
Right.
We need to make a movie about him, Andy. Just
totally. It's going to be a documentary.
In the background. Have Mark be in the background.
Yeah.
All great. We'll call it the story of Dustin.
It'll be like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are
totally. What's that? The great. It's one of my favorite HBO shows. Extras. Did you watch this?
Oh yeah, that's a great show.
That's a terrific show. That's a show that's needed to be made for a long time.
We'll just call it Dusty.
Dusty. Okay, so this is the question I have for you. Besides the blurry guy, and frankly, but in my opinion, Rashida Jones, who I don't think really, I didn't take her very seriously. The film was awesome.
Well, just real quick before you comment.
Only because you have a crush. Fine.
No, totally, Andy has a crush.
Totally has a crush.
No, I'm saying this because that's a role where I think, to a certain extent, it was a disservice casting somebody who is more recognizable in that role. I agree. I felt that was a role where it would have been better off being a little more of an unknown sort of person, because to me, when there's a person who is as recognizable as Rashida Jones is playing a role like that, it always ends up feeling like the role was cut down in the editing room or something, and so it always makes it stand out. So I think she's a great actress. I feel like it would have been better having somebody I didn't recognize there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And maybe that's kind of what leaves a sort of a bad taste in my mouth. But the bigger point is, you brought up Jesse Eisenberg. I think that guy brought to the table some of the greatest, most sort of complex character portrayal I have seen. And he is a just fantastically complicated actor. And I think he did a great job. I thought, all of these guys are tasked with playing these roles about these young people, these kids who are dealing with things that, most, really mature adults have trouble dealing with, the amount of money, the legal wranglings, all these things. And I thought they really pulled it off. The film was great. The script was, I mean, Sorkin, please, when has that guy messed anything up? His dialogue he's one of the great dialogue writers of our age.
Mm-hmm.
Fincher's is on his A game. Why did The King's Speech win the Oscar?
Well, because it's a great movie.
It's a great movie, but it doesn't. I don't think it brings anywhere near the complexity of filmmaking.
I agree.
Right.
You know why it won? It's because the Weinstein brothers were behind it.
Oh, because they're so classy?
No. Because they are marketing machines. They're the ones who got an Oscar for, what was it, 97? When they, what was it called? Shakespeare in Love beat out Saving Private Ryan, which, I think at the time seemed, quite like a huge surprise. And everybody kind of blamed it on the Miramax marketing machine. And, that's how those guys really, pushed to get things to win. And they've since left Miramax, and now it's just the Weinstein Company. But, as I recall, The King's Speech was one of their films. I should actually make sure I'm right in that before I go on record saying it.
Yes,
But
we pride ourselves as being absolutely accurate. Eventually,
yes,
I believe all you say. I believe all of it.
Even the second time when you correct it.
That's right. Even then, but I think that's why. This one is one of the top rated films I think ever on Metacritic. It's a 95, and Metacritic is like the more critical version of Rotten Tomatoes. So if usually if a film is like in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like in the 70s or 80s on Metacritic, because it's a much more narrow window of film critics. And this has a 95 on Metacritic, so I mean that's a hugely high score. It's it won tons of awards, and it was quite a surprise that it did not win Best Picture. A little bit of a shame.
Truly.
Yeah, I mean, I think too it's going to be, I think because the executive producer was Kevin Spacey on this.
Yeah, he was involved.
And he mentions that like, hey, you always wonder, whatever happened to movies like, The Graduate, some of these older movies that were just timeless movies, that just kind of stay there with you. And he's like, are we still making those movies? And this is it. This movie is not it is a movie that is, it goes, I mean, you can't, you watch this movie over and over and over again, and you cannot get enough of these people. You can't. They make them that deep and that rich and that amazing, and all the people work so hard on that. And it is too bad that they didn't get what it deserved. I think The King's Speech probably, you're right. I mean, just probably Best Actor, but I don't know about Best Picture.
Best Actor. I could totally see Jesse Eisenberg, winning Best Actor for this movie, but he's really, he's the young kid. This is going to go down as an early standout performance for him, and I just think there were others that I can see why he didn't.
Yeah,
he should have, but I can see why he didn't.
I can see, it's very obvious why Colin Firth won. He was just fantastic.
He was fantastic. Yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg, though, in his defense, I think there are a lot of people who poo-poo his performance, and I am going to say poo-poo his performance, by saying, it's Jesse Eisenberg. He always plays these fast-talking kind of, sorts of characters.
Not like this, he doesn't.
Well, I know, but there are people who kind of say that about him, and I'm like, have you seen the film? Did you watch what he brought to that role? Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on in this Mark Zuckerberg character, and it's just fascinating to watch him, and he did it so well. So I think he deserved, in my estimation, it could have very well have been a tie, and I would have been happy. Do
they do a lot of ties?
They used to. Well, it all depends on votes. It happens.
I guess.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
I did not know that. I did not know that. Well, and to to Chad's point, I mean, I'm right with you. And there isn't, you name a character from Sports Night to West Wing to I think in my opinion his best series, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, to Charlie Wilson's War, Social Network, The American President. I mean, A Few Good Men. Name those guys. I want to hang out with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorkin writes characters I want to know badly. They're the people I want to hang out with, because just watching those shows makes me smarter. Makes me, feel smarter.
Look smarter, Pete. Come on, look smarter.
And also look smarter. You should see me right now. You
have a mustache, don't you? That's smarter, all right. No, but even Armie Hammer, I thought Armie Hammer.
We totally have to talk about that. Yeah,
Armie Hammer, and I actually got to ask Armie Hammer about. I sat down because he was in J. Edgar.
Yeah.
And I actually went to a screening of it, and he talked, and I raised my hand. I actually got to ask the last question, and he didn't understand the second part of my question. I felt horrible about that, but I asked him what was the difference between I asked him what was it like working with Clint Eastwood, because basically Clint Eastwood is so different from David Fincher, and that Clint Eastwood is he'll like have you do something that seems like it's a practice scene, and then that's the scene, and then they move on, and everybody's like, "What?" It's like, yeah, we got what we want. And I don't know if it's because he's so old that he just doesn't want to spend the time. But he does some good stuff.
He's so old, he's just counting the seconds. I
All
could
those
be
old people.
Like, I could be in the grave any minute. We need to get through this take because this could be the end.
Wow, that was creepy.
That was a really good. That's probably how you say it.
Sometimes I can pull it out. I'm not kidding.
But anyway, no. But he was talking about that, and what I wanted to ask him, what he didn't answer was the scenes in this movie. Was there, or not in this movie, but in the scenes that he did with Clint Eastwood, improvised? But what's interesting is the scenes in this movie weren't improvised. Like they were word for word for word. I mean, everything was. They almost like kept Aaron Sorkin's stuff like a Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and just listening to Armie Hammer, he's such a smart actor. You know, there's a lot of people that kind of go off of talent. I think he is talented, but I think he's very smart. He's very, very smart. And even the way he responds to people, you know how like when I mean, I for Surrogate Valentine, when we did all this like press and we did all these things, and I had trouble saying sentences without saying and you know, like I felt like a surfer after like the first few minutes because I didn't really know like the answers. And he actually would stop and take a moment and think and answer your question. And I just seeing him in this movie, he's a lot like that. Like he's funny when he's supposed to be funny. He's dead on. He's funny. You know, he's just really funny. You know, like when he says, you know, he goes, "We can do that right now. There's two of me." Like, what does he say? There's
when he was talking about going to beat up Zuckerberg.
Right.
I'm 225. I'm 6'5", 200 pounds, and there's two of me.
There's two of me, right? That line. I mean, he says it is
well, and the way he says it as two people. I mean, and that's, you know, I sat there, I watched this film again with my wife. Again, we're on a string of movies that my wife will actually watch with me, and so I feel really thrilled about that. And so we sat down to watch this last night, and she did not know how the Winklevi twins were done. And again, in so many ways, I feel like Benjamin Button was like a terrific prelude technologically.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that next week. But what they did in this movie was so seamless to use another actor's body and put Armie Hammer's head on top of it throughout. It looked perfect. I found, you know, as you were doing the research for the movie, I found the one gaff that is listed as a gaff. There are like 3 frames where you can sort of tell that they didn't quite get the head turned on right away.
Yeah.
But I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
It was flawless. I mean, the only time I've seen it done well like this was kind of the old school way where it would be shot in a split screen method, you know, like the old Haley Mills or Dead Ringers types of movies.
Which apparently was Dead Ringers was one of the movies they studied. Or
your favorite movie, Parent Trap, right, Andy? Parent Trap.
Oh, all time, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did some split screen work in this, but primarily, they replaced the face on, you know, Josh Pence was the actor who was the, you know, body double.
He's like an underwear guy, right? Isn't he like an underwear model?
He is the underwear guy.
He's like an underwear model or something.
Yeah, and he has a very brief cameo,
so to speak. Movie. You just made an underwear joke. Totally.
If only I intended to do that, it would have been awesome.
I know. That's why I had to call it out so blatantly.
Awesome.
Because I felt like you might have missed it. What was it? What was his cameo?
When they're screwing around with the girls in the bathroom at the club, and they step out, and the girls are kind of, you know, in there freshening up, and a guy walks up to go to the bathroom, and Eduardo is just like, "Oh, there's some girls in there," and the guy's like, "Cool," or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's him.
Josh Pence, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Josh.
So the guy that we haven't talked about yet is Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah, the new Peter Parker.
It's interesting. He's been around in England for a while. I hadn't seen him until Terry Gilliam's movie, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really impressive in that. I didn't care for the movie that much, but I always watch Terry Gilliam's movies. And but Andrew Garfield really struck me as, somebody who was, great. And then Terry Gilliam in the behind the scenes stuff, he's talking about how, Andrew is like the next big thing. And I'm like, well, I can see him doing some stuff. I don't know if he's going to be like the next big thing. And then he's in Social Network, and then he's Spider-Man. I'm like, wow, I guess he really is the next big thing.
And so it is written, and so it shall be done.
That's right.
Wow. He told you, Andy.
I know. I should start listening to Terry more often.
I like him. But you know what I feel like? I don't even know if this is a fair comparison. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a terrific actor. I do. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time watching things that he does and not enjoying them. I really, that is my stance on DiCaprio. I also find him incredibly hard to believe because of how he looks.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a child.
A man-child.
He is a man-child. And he just carries that. And so I think that the great example is, looking at, this Insipid. No. What's the one he did? They just did. The
Edgar?
No, before that with the dreams.
Oh, Inception.
Inception. Not
Insipid.
Insipid. This is, I'm telling you.
Is that another movie?
Oh, every damn week we do this. Too late. It's too late.
It's true. It always is.
So there he is in Insipid. You were going to say Shutter Island. There's another one. He doesn't look like the guy that you would expect to be the characters that he's playing. He doesn't look like the suits don't fit him. He doesn't wear suits that fit. Like it's like dress up on Halloween. My 5-year-old wearing my suit looks like it's like a play suit. But once you get past that and actually let yourself kind of get lost in his portrayal of these characters, I think he does a great job. I sort of feel like Andrew Garfield is in that same category for me. I think once you get past the fact that just how he looks and behaves on screen, just how he looks on screen, then you can focus on how he behaves on screen and get lost in the part. But it's hard to do because he just doesn't feel quite
there,
like he's grown into his skin yet. He's like a German Shepherd puppy, with this big ears and big paws, and the rest of him is just not quite grown in yet. I think he's another one that's going to be terrific. And I will say, I think he's probably just right for Peter Parker. As mad as I am that movie is being made, and that Chad is not in it,
I was sad about that.
I am mad and sad about Chad. I think he will be great. I think Andrew Garfield will do a very good job.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that Spider-Man movie another day.
Yeah,
we can go off on that for a long time
at great length.
I'm none too happy.
No, I'm really none too happy is the word.
But Andy and I were in the first one, weren't we, Andy?
We were in the first Spider-Man film, yes.
We made it in there.
We're going to have to post a screenshot.
I had a CG explosion over me, so you cannot actually see me in the film.
All right, so, and then, Chad, can you tell where you were seen?
Oh, there was a close-up of me, and they took it out because I had a New York cap on.
So you were actually not seen. I
was not seen in the movie either.
So when
I think I was with Andy during the CG explosion.
Yeah, you're behind the explosion with me.
All right. So for the audience, for the vast audience that's listening, actually we don't have anyone listening to the show because Chad, you are on it. I will.
But I'm a big fan.
You're a big fan, and you're going to go listen to it.
He'll listen to it at least twice.
At least.
I just want to make sure we understand that when you say we were in that movie, technically you were cut from that movie.
Technically, yes.
Technically, we were not cut. Well, technically, we were just we had CG added on top of us, but we're there.
You were there. Okay,
the celluloid
right.
under the digital.
Do you? I imagine it's like walking into a room and the killer's feet are under the velvet curtain. Like you, all we see is Chad and Andy's shoes under an explosion.
That's exactly what it is. And you can actually see interviews with us in the making of with the extras that wasn't included in any of the DVDs.
And now there's a 45-minute bit with Chad and Andy sitting on the couch talking about the film.
Well, here's the thing, though. What was cool is I actually got. I don't know if you guys know. Well, I think Andy knows. Andy, I think you know. Is I sent actually an audition tape to Sony. And it was watched by the casting directors when they were auditioning for Spider-Man, the original one. And I called in a couple times and I said, "Oh, so they watched it?" And they're like, they did watch it, they enjoyed it. And I was like, "Wow, that's great." And they go, "But you know what? They're just even the person they're thinking of now. I don't think they're going to take him." And I go, "Tobey Maguire?" And there was this silence on the other end, and he goes, "Well, I can't tell you. I can't tell you."
Oh man!
And like the next day, it was Tobey Maguire.
It was Tobey Maguire. And, they were shining you on, man.
They were shining me down.
God, I had a thing just now.
But yeah. Anyway, Andrew Garfield was something.
Good. Yeah, I think he's good. I think he did a great job of this movie.
But it's moments like when they're at the Jewish fraternity.
That was so good.
Night.
That was so
when he comes walking over and he does that little.
That shimmy.
Dance. Yeah, that's a shimmy that he does. David Fincher talks about on the commentary how that's just something that after, I don't know, a dozen takes or so that he just kind of threw in there and everyone loved it so much that they just kept it. But it was perfect,
Yeah, it was.
Well, I don't know if you guys know about this, but I mean, I've watched this film over and over and watched all the interviews, and he talks about how he when he read the script, he knew right off his character would not work unless he fell in love with Jesse Eisenberg's character, like fell in love with whoever played Jesse Mark Zuckerberg, because he said, it had to be somebody that felt like a younger brother that he could love, envy, want to protect, and just be, just hate at the same time. And he said he basically, outside of sexually, he fell in love with Jesse over this course of this film because of who Jesse was and their relationship, and that's why it works so well. And
is really, I mean, when they explode, when he goes to and is asked to sign the papers in the Facebook headquarters, and he goes over and smashes Mark's laptop.
I think it was Jesse's.
It was probably Jesse. Dude, totally not a prop.
What the heck?
Movie foul. That was a terrific scene. It was on the part of Timberlake too.
Oh my gosh! Right after that,
he was great. He was great.
Gosh.
They just did a great job. I think they built to that sort of explosive thing. And I think, getting back to something you said earlier, well, one of you said earlier brilliantly, one of the things that's so jarring about this movie, when I walked out of this movie, I thought, well, I think one of the things that I find so weird is that it is discussing history that we are involved in today.
Right.
That after this movie, I got on my phone and went to Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook page, and that was almost so meta that I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Right.
It was almost too much. Like, you don't want to say too soon, man, too soon, because there wasn't really a thing. It's not like, making the Twin Towers movie. It's
oh yeah.
It's just different. It's different when you're living it as you're watching it play out, sort of.
Oh, here, I want to mention one other person I thought was really great was the guy who played Bill Gates.
Yeah.
He was so great. He sounded just like Bill Gates.
He did.
I thought it was Bill Gates.
It was not. Because it was he was, younger.
Yes,
by like 5 years.
So it couldn't have been him.
Couldn't have been. Yeah. Who actually played Bill Gates? That was Steve Sires.
it was Will Fates.
And Steve has been in. He has played Bill Gates before.
He's one of those guys. He's a
Bill
double.
Gates guy. He is a double. He was in Nothing So
Probably
Strange.
goes to casinos. He probably goes to casinos and does like the Bill Gates show. You know,
he was in. He has been in. He's been in the. He was in episode dated 3 August 1998 of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and he was in Nothing So Strange in 2002 as Bill Gates, and in The Social Network in 2010 as Bill Gates. Fascinating. Awesome. You go, Steve Sires. Sears.
Whatever your name is.
It's bizarre because when you look at him, he does not look like. Oh no, that's Brian Fleming. There's no picture of him. I can't find a picture of him.
Oh.
Weirdly, I guess I'm just picturing Bill Gates. All right, so I think we're good. Anyway, how would you wrap up this your Social Network experience with Fincher?
Well, I think it was I would say at this point in his career, I think that this is the pinnacle so far. I don't think he's made, even with Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I don't think he's topped this film. I think it was so good in every aspect. And I'm talking the directing that he brought to the table, the acting, the writing, all things we've talked about already, but also the editing. I mean, the Kirk and Angus, who we talked about last time, very much deserved to win the Oscar for this film. Cronenweth shot it, and it was just fantastic. Everything, right down to the locations they used, everything that they used to make this film was just so right. I mean, it's such a flawless story that's being told here, and I think it's really, in my mind, the top of Fincher's work.
I would say the same, and I would say that one of the great lessons, I think, this was something that you brought to my attention last week, was that Fincher was not tied to the next Dragon movies. And what became so clear to me with this movie, The Social Network, is that one of his really, I think, largely unique skills has become how to pick the right projects. You can really tell. I mean, this is a unique project that he brought a really unique vision to, and I think he's that's one of those skills that I don't think is celebrated often enough, is learning how to say no. And you can tell by, when you look at the catalog of films from Alien 3 through Dragon Tattoo, clearly he has gotten better and better at doing that.
Yeah, and that's coming into this project. I mean, he was brought onto this project by Scott Rudin,
right,
and
Dana Moretti and
Aaron Sorkin, who wrote it and said, I think that he would be our guy. And I mean, it was just great call on their part.
Right, great. I mean, it was the whole package. And we haven't really talked. We talked, I think, at length about Reznor and Atticus.
Last time,
and but really in this the Social Network, the soundtrack to The Social Network is, it's one of those you can just put on repeat. It becomes a soundtrack to whatever you're doing. It is malleable.
Yeah, it's gorgeous music.
Gorgeous. It's perfect. Chad, how do you wrap it up?
I was actually so funny because when Andy was going to wrap it up, I was going to say, can you wrap it up using the word conundrum? And I think...
And I would like to say, can you wrap it up using the word Twinkie?
Okay, I can.
Yeah, I know you can.
How about Twinkie conundrum?
Well, I think I think that seriously, like any of the other movies that I saw last year were really virtually the size of a Twinkie compared to the David Fincher film. And also it creates an enormous conundrum for David Fincher. Can he create another film as great? But
wow.
I think I mean, I think basically his vision for this and just the way that he directed it, and I can say this, listening to the way that he directs, he cared so much about the way that he spoke to his actors and the way that they thought about him throughout the film. I mean, this movie, by all rights, if somebody were to ask you, how do you make a movie about this? It just doesn't make. I mean, you could to make it interesting for people to watch, and want to watch over and over and over again. It's not just the writer in that case. You could have a great, Aaron Sorkin's a great writer, but if you don't have the actors that fit those roles, and if you don't have the director that knows how to talk to those actors. David Fincher was talking about how he talked to his actors, and I thought it was really funny. He'd make them do stuff, and in the middle of a take, he'd stop them and say, okay, stop there. And they'd be all into it, and they'd be like, what? And then he'd have them go, start now. And then he just mess with them. But he'd do it in a way that was like, I guess,
loving and hateful.
Yeah, but it takes, it's like a miracle that this whole movie was even made, because by all rights, a movie about Facebook, I don't think is interesting enough to carry an audience's attention for that long. That's not just a documentary,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it so pleasant to watch. It makes you want to watch it. They somehow pulled this off, and against the odds of what it was. It wasn't an action movie. It's not Transformers. It's not, so it's amazing. I think it's one that's going to be, to me, it's a Shawshank Redemption where you can watch it over and over and over again.
It is. I think it's certainly on that list. The source material is really good too. I would also recommend, if you haven't read Accidental Billionaires by Ben Mesrick, pick it up. The other, if you liked the movie 21, right, which was also the same production, as Kevin Spacey's and Dana Brunetti's production.
Great.
It was a good movie. It was another Ben Mesrick book, Bringing Down the House.
Right.
And Mesrick has a brand new one that I started last night. And it's actually really good. It's called Sex on the Moon: The Amazing Story Behind the Most Audacious Heist in History. It is really worth picking up. It's a good read. So whatever you think of his sort of dramatizations of true events, they're good reads. And it's worth looking at, I think.
Cool.
If you're a reader, I mean, who are we kidding?
We're not readers. We're watchers.
We don't know how to read. Is it on audiobook?
That's right.
So I got nothing else. So chadstoops.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter Wright, thank you so much for inviting me. Andy, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Seriously.
That's show 11. That goes down as the one that was an honor.
An honor to be on.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, man.
Do we need to mention our the site where people should go if they want to leave comments and stuff?
Facebook.
Facebook. Go to Facebook.
I'll be there.
Well, we're struggling.
You can friend us on Facebook.
Totally friend us on Facebook. We're struggling with that, but you can always go to rashpixel.tv and find all the other Rash Pixel shows there, and you can leave comments on the shows there. Certainly do that. You can find out where to subscribe to the show on the Rash Pixel page for the shows there. It's not hard to find. And you should follow Andy on Twitter, because he likes that and he tweets a lot. Right? What is your you're the movie monkey?
I'm at the movie monkey. I tweet once a week when we post our shows.
You do more on Facebook.
What?
You do more on Facebook, right? I do. So you should follow the movie monkey on Twitter. And do you have your Facebook? Is it Andy Nelson, or is it the movie monkey again? Facebook.
No, I think it's Andy Nelson. I think I'm going
to find out.
I don't know how I guess I just click on this.
It's Andy. Oh no, yeah, that's Andy Dot. That's not you.
There are way too many Andy Nelsons out there.
It's totally not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Nelson from Surprise, Arizona. No, I'm not. I get profile.php _ID equals.
Yeah, that's what I get too. It's a big ugly mess.
You should become.
I don't know how to do that.
Really?
This is the side of Facebook that I don't delve into. I'm sorry.
You're a regular Aaron Sorkin.
You are.
Yes.
All right. So you know what you can do? You can go friend me, and from my page you can find Andy. I'm just Pete Wright. That's what
You're
do.
not just. You are the Pete Wright.
No, I'm the Herman Cain. Do you see that? His Facebook.com is the Herman Cain. I did another show today. We talked way too much about Herman Cain. It's funny. He's a funny guy. All right. Yeah. So Twitter. I'm Twitter at Pete Wright.
Hey, if you guys do Goonies, please call me at any hour.
All right. Especially at any. We're gonna do a special show.
It'll be the 3:30 a.m.
Goonies review.
That one, or I'm gonna get you, sucker. Because
what about Snakes on a Plane? Are you a Snakes on a Plane?
That one.
Oh, please. That's it. You're disinvited. I'm gonna cut you out of this one.
How about the Never-Ending Story? Have you guys ever thought of the Never-Ending Story?
No, we've
that
never
could go
thought
on forever, kind of like this one, just forever.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete, and to be honest, it's a lot of work too, but it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?